Hey there, I'm Kathleen. Welcome to my channel. As a transition strategist, I help women, primarily high performing Black women, navigate life and career transitions without unnecessary chaos by deepening self trust and realigning you with your values. And people often ask me, how do I personally stay calm or focused or grounded during uncertain times, during unprecedented times, during chaotic times? How do I avoid crashing out? And in the past 10 years, I've been through a lot of seasons of change, transition, uncertainty. After I earned my master's, I said, now what? Now what do I do? I uprooted my comfortable life in Chicago, where I'm originally from, and I dove into the unknown of New York and eventually New Jersey. I lost my father and navigated grief, which I thought, with the 5 stages of grief, I thought once you hit acceptance, then you've grieved. I didn't realize that grief is a lifelong journey. I also experienced 4 periods of unemployment in a 5-year time frame, and each time I wasn't sure what was next. And now I've left corporate America and I'm building my business for myself to make an impact. And this is personal and professional development times 100. But I'm still here. And, looking back, I didn't always feel calm during those transitions when I was deep in the middle of it, when I was deep in the changes. And by the way, what I've listed, that's not even everything that I've experienced. Those are just the things that I'm willing to talk about publicly. But a lot of the transitions that I've experienced over the past 10 years were unexpected or out of my control, things I didn't necessarily ask for. But still, I do recognize how I could have responded to some things differently. So like I said, even though I didn't always feel calm, I can see I'm starting to understand why people ask me, how do I stay calm? Because I see how I actually was more calm or more grounded than I may have realized at the time. And so I thought I would share some ways of how I stay calm and focused during uncertain times. And maybe it's some things that you can also apply in your own life or try and see if that can help you stay calm during uncertain times. One thing I do want to be clear about, though, is that it's okay if you're not always calm. It's completely natural to be scared of the unknown. That's what makes change so hard. It's our brains are wired to protect us. And unfortunately, our brains think that anything new or, unfamiliar is dangerous. Our brains see change as a threat. And I mean, I'm human, so I'm not always calm during hard times or during seasons of transitions, and I can have my moments. And my journey to trusting myself hasn't been easy, and that's still an ongoing journey. Sometimes I can be too analytical or I will spend too much time overthinking. But I think the point is that I always come back to myself with my feet planted on the ground, and I keep moving forward, even if the steps are small. So for me, there's really I would say three primary things that help keep me calm, focused, and grounded during uncertain times. The number one thing for me is my faith, moving in faith. I'm a woman of faith and I'm also spiritual. I'm not super religious, but faith is definitely the number one thing that keeps me grounded. Faith is believing in something that you can't see. And it's not just about being hopeful, even though I am a very hopeful person. Faith is not just about hoping that things works out. It's knowing that by making intentional choices, things will unfold for you. Everything is for you. Faith helps you trust that there is a bigger picture, that things are all working together. And so for me, sometimes that looks like prayer, sometimes that looks like journaling, sometimes that looks like just being still long enough to hear the inner voice, to hear what I might already know inside. Because for me, when I'm in the transition, especially like in the beginning, when there's a change, my brain, my brain is like, okay, what's going on? Like this, what are we doing? This, okay, no, alert, danger, danger. And I start filling up silence, meaning I don't like to sit still or quiet. I start like TV always has to be on in the background, even if I'm not watching. I basically like become overstimulated on purpose because my brain is just like, okay, we need safety. This is dangerous. Okay, we can't be quiet. We need to be moving. We need to be doing something. And it's not until I get still where things start to become more clear. I can hear myself. I can hear from God. I can understand or know what is the next step to take. I might not know the full picture. I might not know the next 5 steps, but I'll know the next step. And for me, when I take that next step, when I move to that with that next step, while I'm in that step, the next step after that, step 2 shows up. And then once I'm in step 2 and I'm working that, then step 3 shows up. And notice that it's a movement. It's motion, right? I'm not waiting in vain. I'm moving in faith. And so depending on your beliefs, you may have heard, faith without works is dead, or if you're more spiritual, you might hear move in the direction of your desires, or if you're neither spiritual or religious or a person of faith, you might just hear people say do the work. So all of those things essentially it's all the same foundation in terms of moving with whatever your belief is. It's about you're not just waiting for things to happen, and you're also not forcing things to happen. It's trusting that what you're going through will benefit you, that there is a bigger picture, there's a reason. This piece that you're experiencing right now is a small piece of a bigger picture. Um, so that's like the number one thing for me that keeps me grounded. It's knowing that nine times out of 10, the things I've experienced were for something bigger. It wasn't just about me. It was bigger than me. Another thing that helps me stay calm, focused, and grounded during uncertain times is routines and rhythms. So if you have young kids or nieces and nephews, shout out to all the aunties like me, then you probably have, or you probably have routines for your kids, or you've probably seen your nieces and nephews with their routines. And honestly, adults need routines too. Sometimes we act like routines are only for kids or they're only for people who wake up at 5 a.m. or who work out at 5 a.m. But honestly, even simple routines, you know, lighting a candle in the morning, that's a routine. Or winding down with music, like having a wind down playlist, that's a routine. Or, anything else like that. It sends a signal, tells your body like, "Hey, we're safe. We're, you know, uh what's the word? Connecting or shifting to the next part of the day." Right? It's a signal to your brain that, okay, we're not doing this thing anymore. Now we're doing this thing. And for me, I noticed that my evening and morning routines are more effective when I'm in a transition. And I think they're more effective because it's something that I can control, and it helps keep me, like, grounded and steady, even though things around me feel out of control or feel unsteady. For me, when everything around me feels unpredictable, my routines feel like they're mine, right? I can change them how I want. I can add to add to them how I want. It's something that I can expect. It's something that I can return to. It's something that, angers me. Even I make my bed every single morning. For me, if I haven't made my bed, that signals to me that something's wrong. But making my bed every single morning has become a predictable routine. It signals to me and my brain like, okay, we're starting the day. And for me, predictability, it helps calm my nervous system. So when my mind is racing, I just go back to something that's predictable. And then that helps my body remember, like, okay, we've been here before. We've made it through this before. Like, if all I do today is make my bed, that's enough. And I'll be honest, sometimes when life is really lifing, I'll ease up on some of my routines and focus more so on the rhythms instead. So I think routines can be kind of strict and too structured. So if you're somebody who already doesn't like a lot of structure, focus more so on creating repeating rhythms, or, a regular rhythm every day or every week. It doesn't have to be every day, because I think rhythms give you space for softness. So for me, like I said, when life really is just doing a lot, my rhythms still keep me grounded. So, instead of journaling 5 days a week, it might be 2 days a week. Or, um, if during hard times, I completely get thrown off with my meal plans. So sometimes it might not mean that I'm cooking from scratch or meal planning twice a week. Maybe I'm meal prepping once a week, and then the rest of the week, maybe I'm getting takeout or going to the prepared food section of the grocery store and, taking some of the pressure off of having every meal be home cooked. I think rhythms basically help take some of the pressure off when those routines feel too structured. But for me, having at least a rhythm, ideally a routine for me, that's definitely something that helps keep me grounded because it's predictable. And another thing that I do to stay calm during uncertain times is to remind myself that everything is seasonal. I think sometimes when we're in the middle of a transition or deep in an uncomfortable or uncertain time, we think it will last forever, but nothing lasts forever. Everything shifts, everything evolves. And I try to remind myself that every season isn't for, you know, blooming, thinking about flowers and plants. Like there are some seasons where we plant the seed, and then there are other seasons where we harvest what has grown. And I completely skipped over the parts of in between planting the seed and the harvest is the growing period. There are seasons when we're supposed to be quiet. There are seasons when, we're supposed to be more visible, right? My favorite season is spring, and one of the reasons, not just because my birthday is in spring, but it's because after winter is spring where, the trees start growing their leaves and we start to see flowers and we hear the birds chirping, they've come back and, the days are longer, there's more sunlight. And it's a reminder that during the cold of winter comes spring, or after the cold of winter comes spring. Spring always shows up. Even if it shows up a little late, it always shows up. So again, I try to remind myself that everything is seasonal, things don't last forever. There's times to plant the seed, there's times to grow it underground sometimes, there's times to harvest. And every season has its purpose, has its reason. And I think, especially in winter or a winter season, we try to rush through it. And you can't rush winter. You can't rush winter, especially in the Northeast. You can't always rush it. So reminding yourself that everything is seasonal can absolutely help you stay calm and grounded during uncertain times. It definitely helps me. So if you're in a season of uncertainty right now and you're trying to figure out how to stay more calm, how to be more grounded during the season, here are some things that you can practice. And one thing I do want to say is that when you're in the middle of a transition or uncertainty or in the thick of it, it can be challenging at times to figure out what you really need or what will actually help. So I encourage you to practice and try trial and error, practice and see what works for you because what might work for me might not work for you, or what works for you might not work for someone else. So practice some of these things that I'm going to share and be gentle with yourself, be kind to yourself. One thing that you can practice is to focus on one thing that you can control. Because when things around you feel uncertain or out of control or unpredictable, that can absolutely make you feel unfocused, um, chaotic, right? So, what's one thing that you can control? It could be a 10-minute morning routine, and you can start small, right? If you want a morning routine, it could even be a 5 minute. Something you can do every morning for 5 minutes and build your way up to 10 minutes or however long? What's one thing that you can do? Or it could be a bedtime playlist to signal to your brain and your body that it's time to wind down for the day. It's evening, we're gonna, honor our sleep and have good quality sleep. So maybe a bedtime playlist will let us know, like, hey, time to wind down. Or, one thing that you control might be simply taking your vitamins every day. Or, showing more gratitude, writing down one thing that was good that day. So just anchor yourself in one thing that you can control. Start there, and then you can build from there. Another thing that you can practice is to create a list of things that help keep you calm when your nervous system feels all over the place, when things around you feel chaotic. So you can create a list like in your phone or in a notebook of things that help you self-regulate. Because sometimes when everything around us feels out of control, it can be very easy to forget what actually keeps us calm. right? So sometimes just having it written down, having it in the notes app in your phone, going back to that, that can help you remind yourself of what you need to self-regulate to stay calm. It could be prayer, a deep breath. Sometimes I have to remind myself to breathe. I'm not gonna lie. It could be, a reminder to take a walk or maybe a workout, or maybe you have a specific playlist of songs that just help you feel calm or remind you of a season in your life that maybe was a bit more joyful, or maybe it's a voice note from a friend or sending a voice note to a friend, maybe whatever it is. Make a list of a few things. Don't overwhelm yourself. It doesn't have to be a long list. Just a few things to remind yourself of what keeps your nervous system calm, makes you feel safe when things around you feel out of control. And then another thing that you can practice is simply naming the season that you're in. So sometimes just saying that this is a season, because remember, everything's seasonal, right? Or reminding yourself that you're in a this is a transitional season. You're in transition. This is a change, and change can be hard. It helps your brain just understand, like, hey, we're actually okay. We're not in danger. This is something new. And once you call it what it is, once you practice doing that, it kind of lets your brain know that we can move to the next step. We don't have to stay here in the scared part of change, the scary part of change. We can move forward and be more courageous and move with the change, right? So it might also help to ask, what's being developed in me right now, even if I can't see it? Like, what part of me needed a character development? Or what am I learning about myself or about what I need in this season? And moving forward, how do I want to move? Right? I think naming the season that you're in and just asking yourself a few questions about what this season might be teaching you about yourself or what you need absolutely helps to keep you focused during uncertain times. So I invite you to think about and ask yourself this question: what actually helps you stay calm? What helps me stay calm? Ask yourself that. What keeps you rooted when everything around you is moving or unsteady or unstable? Take some time to reflect on that, maybe journal on it or just sit with that question. Because being calm or grounded or focused during uncertain times, it doesn't mean that you're not affected by it. It doesn't mean that like you don't care about what's going on. It just means that you have something to anchor you to yourself when everything around you feels unsteady. And if this video resonated with you, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Are there any tips that I've shared that you're going to try? Are there any things that you're going to put, anything that you're going to put into practice? What's one thing that helps you stay calm and focused when things are uncertain or unsteady? And check out the description box below. I've linked some additional resources, a couple posts on the blog that are related to this topic. And if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any videos when they drop. And uncertainty doesn't mean that something's wrong. It might just mean that there's something new and our brains are we're trying to figure out how to move with that new thing. We're learning and we're trying to stay steady while we learn. So take care of yourself, take care of your nervous system, stay close to your rhythms and the things that you can control. Let faith and patience and work do its thing. You're not behind. You're just becoming. So take what you need and leave the rest. And thank you for watching. See you next time.